Thank you for joining us for the Professional Doctorate in Philanthropic Leadership information session. We will get started right now. My name is Aaron Jones. I'm the Associate Director for our online programs. I will be acting as your MC for the event today. With us, we have Professor Cindy M. Lott, Clinical Professor, STED Policy Fellow, and Director for our Professional Doctorate program. Madison Everett is our Program Manager for the PhilD. She will be in the background helping us answer questions and any technical issues that we've got. Hopefully none. Greg Rathnow is our Associate Director for Student Success and will be speaking today as well. If you have any questions that are not answered today, if you'd like follow-up information, feel free to contact us at any point through the email listed there, phild@iu.edu. As mentioned earlier, any questions that you have, please use the Q&A function. I'll ask that you hold off for 20 minutes or so, as many of the questions may be answered through the slide deck that we have prepared. Again, the entire event will be recorded and sent to anyone who has registered for the event as well. All right, and from there, I will leave it to Cindy to talk about the program. Cindy, go ahead.
Thank you so much, and welcome to everybody that's joining us today, whether you're synchronous with us today or you're looking at this as a recording. This will be posted on our website, so if you missed something, as Aaron said, you can go back and look at it, or feel free to share it with any of your colleagues who may be interested in the PhilD. We are very excited that we are going to be opening for our next cohort, and we will talk about, in this entire webinar, we will be talking about what the PhilD is, why it's here at the Lilly School of Philanthropy at Indiana University, and how you can think about applying. We want you to really have full information in order to think about whether this is a good match for you. Most people who are at the stage where they are thinking about their doctoral program are really looking far and wide, and we encourage that. We want you to really think about this program and compare it to some of your other options. There are many now online, and so we want you to have that information. We are here for you to help as you are thinking through whether this is a good match. We want to help guide you to the best that we can, and we look forward to seeing if you wind up applying with us. Greg Rathnow, Aaron, Madison, and I are all here for you as you're thinking about this through the process. So the PhilD, which is the Professional Doctorate in Philanthropic Leadership, is the first one in the world. And there is a reason why it is at the Lilly School. It has 3 separate prongs that we really focus on, both in the curriculum and also in the applied research projects that any student in the program is doing. Our 3 prongs are philanthropy, leadership, and inquiry. And we make sure that we are covering all of that in the curriculum through the coursework that we offer, but also in the applied research projects, which we will be talking about. And each applicant has to be proposing an applied research project for this program. It is one of the main areas of the application, and it's very important that you think through that. And again, we are here to help you if you have ideas and you want to bounce them off. I am happy to speak with you about the substantive parts of your application. So unlike a PhD where we're really, really thinking about original research and you're exploring brand new ideas and trying to come up with data and other research that folks can use out in the field, this is the first one of these types of degrees in the world that is really applied research and intended for people who are already working in the field or have been working adjacent to this field. We really do encourage people that are coming from the government sector and also from the for-profit sector, but have had extensive experience somehow in any form that you care to explain to us how it is that you have been working within philanthropy and nonprofits. And I will just mention, by philanthropy, we are the School of Philanthropy and the only one in the world. We do include the nonprofit work, obviously, within that. We are working with groups and individuals that are working with nonprofits, with foundations, with public charities. All of them we include under this big umbrella term of philanthropy. We are looking for leadership. There is a reason why this program it's essentially in the form of an executive doctorate. We'll talk more about this in a bit, but everybody has to already have an earned undergrad and graduate degree in order to even apply to this program. Those credits don't transfer in any way as with some PhD programs. We just need that as your baseline. And again, we'll talk about that in a bit, but we are looking for leaders. We're looking for people that have some form of leadership We say the minimum is 5 years, but I will tell you that most of the folks that have been admitted to our first 3 cohorts have anywhere between a minimum of probably 12 years, 15, and upwards of 30. In some form of leadership. You do not have to be a CEO, you do not have to be the executive director, but you do need to have shown some form of leadership in a space, in a field, that's either within our field or adjacent to it, as I say. And a lot of that is going to be explained by you in your application to let us know how that leadership has been manifested in your career. And lastly is inquiry. As I mentioned, this is an applied research degree. This is not original research, but you do have an inquiry to make. And we'll talk about that when we discuss your applied research project proposals. But those are the 3 prongs that we're looking both that you have already started exploring in your career and that this program could really further your career on those 3 aspects. Next slide, Erin. Thank you. So again, the PhilD is a very specific type of degree when you think about it compared to a PhD or perhaps an EDD or some of the PhDs that are in organizational leadership, which have become quite popular. And yet, it is also a very broad umbrella, as I mentioned. There are many, many different topics being undertaken by the students that are now in this program. And it's an incredibly diverse group, diverse ideas, diverse perspectives. And this particular program is intended to meet students where they are at. So that our coursework is not specific on, management or tools or things like that. It is really about the big picture of how to go deeper in inquiry within this field. And we'll go over the curriculum in just a bit. But that is why we encourage you to ask lots of questions about why the PhilD may or may not be a good match for you. The Lilly Family School of Philanthropy, as I mentioned, is the first and only school of philanthropy in the world. We have the largest cache of researchers in this field. We teach in this field. We do all the things. Some of you may, in fact, already be aware of the Lilly School through our undergraduate or our master's programs. And certainly the PhD program, which is the first PhD program in the world in philanthropy. But there has been a call for more work for professionals who want to further their careers and think about how they can become educated even more so in this field and take it into the work, take it back out into the sector. And that's what this degree is for. The Lilly School is committed to this program. It began some years ago. We just admitted our 3rd cohort. And really one of the main reasons why the Lilly School is feeling very dedicated and committed to this program is that we want each of these applied research projects to be put back out into the field. This is a commitment by our school to help aid and to support the nonprofit and philanthropic sector. And so that's why we feel it's really appropriate as the Lilly Family School continues to break ground in educational offerings and programs. This is our latest and has become quite popular actually over the years, the last few years since the launch. We're going to talk a little bit about the curriculum, the overview, and again, you'll have this on slides. It's also on our website. What it looks like, some of our kind of typical applicants, the structure of the program. This is an asynchronous program, but we have many optional synchronous moments that you can be joining both in courses and other. So we want to talk about that and a little bit about what applied research means, because it's not obvious to everybody. And certainly if you've been working in the field for a long time, that may not be a term that you're as familiar with. So that's the overview of today. So here is our curriculum, again, for working professionals. It is asynchronous and it is cohort-based. So unlike a lot of programs where if you meet the baseline of, your application, your former GPA, your degrees, you'll be admitted. We have a cohort, we have a limit to our cohorts. We had a limit early on of 25, and we actually are continuing to kind of hone on some of those numbers. We do not admit more than we have that are qualified, but historically now we've had many, 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 many applicants that are qualified. And then we are choosing a cohort within that. It is sequential. So this is not a choose your own adventure degree in the sense that we do have a plan for you. There are courses and each course is sequential. You are taking one at a time online. Most of this can be done, as I say, it's an asynchronous program. Most of this you will be working on your own, but you will have deadlines every week in courses. You will have optional synchronous sessions. So we have many, many junctures where you are connecting with your cohort, which is imperative. We have found that the cohort is the model for making sure people really feel like they are part of a group and coming through this curriculum. And also in seeing your faculty, you are seeing them, you are talking with them, you can many one-on-ones, all sorts of things. So you are not just on your own when you are working in this, but you are able to fit it into your schedule. And for people that are working professionals and at this time in life with family, often elderly parents and or family of their own with potential kids, partners, spouses, and intense work lives, this is a program that you can fit into your world. We've seen it happen, and we're very, very happy to see that the students tell us that once they get in a routine, it's working for them. So the curriculum is 3 years long for the entire program. The first 2 years are these sequential courses. They're all labeled here. In your very first year, you are getting all 3 prongs: philanthropy, leadership, and inquiry in your coursework, and some more. The first year ends with a milestone course so that we can make sure you're where you need to be and you can really start seeing where you will need to be headed with the work you've done so far. The second year, you are taking courses again sequentially, but now you are also working with your faculty committee. We start to layer that into this in the second year. Again, you have an applied philanthropy project, which we call a milestone course, as your last course of your second year. And in fact, that's the last course in your curriculum in terms of the 12 courses that you'll be taking. Everybody is taking the same 12 courses. There are no electives. This is the curriculum that we have seen at this point is working for people, as I said, to meet you wherever you are. Some of you may have more background or experience in certain aspects, depending on what your graduate degree is, or your professional background. But each of these courses is intended to allow you to move at the level that you need to be at in order to move forward with your applied research project, and to frankly just decant your brain, to really open you up to thinking about other parts of the philanthropic sector that you may not be experiencing in your professional life, right? It can be very easy to kind of get into a groove or into one lane within your career and lose sometimes even sight of the larger issues going on. And we certainly have them in our sector right now at this historic moment. The third year, courses are done. And now you are only working with your faculty committee and writing up your applied research project. So 2 years of coursework, 1 year of writing, and your faculty committee starts working with you in your second year and then through your third year. That is the way we set this curriculum up. You will be done in 3 years. At this point, there is no exit off-ramp for a master's degree, as happens with PhD programs, where if someone doesn't finish, they can kind of convert that to a master's degree and exit the program. You should think about that in terms of the timing here, that this is straight through 2 years of courses, that third year of writing. There's not an exit ramp at this moment. If, emergencies come up, life happens, we definitely have some options, and everyone that needs that can talk with me as the director. But you should be fully committed to 3 years. And I often remind our applicants and our students that these are the 3 years to really learn to say no to other things, because this is a very intensive commitment. But again, it's working for students, and we are happy to connect you if you're really interested in talking with a couple of our students who are in the program. Next slide, please. So we are looking for senior leaders, some mid-careers, obviously also will meet those requirements for the public good. And as I said, this is defined very broadly. This could be all 3 sectors: government, for-profit, not-for-profit. All of the sectors are welcome, as we write here, with demonstrated background or interest. Have to have both of those earned degrees before you can apply. These are just the baseline standards for submitting an application. And we want you to really want to explore. That is what this degree is for. And it's kind of, think about it. When you get into leadership positions, you have to always know the answers when you're working with your staff or when you're doing presentations, working with your boards. This is a place where you get to come and not know all the answers. It's a safe place for you to come and explore some of the things that you really wanted to think about and a bunch that you probably haven't thought about. Our teaching and our research at this school is very, very broad, and we cover a wide universe, and we are trying to reflect that in our PhilD curriculum. So we hope that you come with a real sense of inquiry and curiosity for our curriculum. And then you'll have a personal statement, and Greg will speak a bit more about this later. The personal statement is really about what has your leadership experience been? Tell us about that and how you think this degree will impact that trajectory. It's a really important part of your application. We take it very seriously. You've got a resume that you'll have to submit and transcripts. We'll have seen all that. What we want to see here is how you think this program will fit into your leadership trajectory and what you can give back to the sector as well as get personally out of this program. Next slide. Yes, and so the other major component, as I mentioned, is your applied research project proposal. We call them the ARP. So the proposal for the application has some word limits. You actually do have to have some citations. Let me explain a little bit more about this. So the idea here is that you have been at a leadership level and in and around the sector enough that you have seen some of the major issues that simply remain to be resolved or moved further. These should be either recurrent issues in the sector that you have seen through your experience, or the very rare case where something is completely new under the sun that has never occurred before. You and I all we know as leaders and people with experience in the field that if somebody is brand new in the field, everything looks new. And that's exciting. And we have degree programs for those folks that have less experience. But in this program, we are looking for folks that really understand there is a recurrent issue here. And this does not and should not be attached to your current employer. It can be an issue that you're seeing in your employment, certainly, excuse me, or in your consultancy. But we discourage, it's not a great idea to have a project that's very specific to an employer. You may wind up leaving that job, but also because we want you to come in with a completely open mind about what the answers to these recurrent issues may be. So you need to identify what that issue is. And again, once you've thought through a lot of this, we're happy to speak with you about this. It needs to indicate some sector need. What is it that the sector how would they benefit, or what would be the impact of some of the work and the research that you might do in the space? And also who you might collaborate with, which is a huge issue in our sector, of course. These big issues rarely get solved by one organization, one person, or even one sector. So we want to hear from you what has been your experience and knowledge base about who you might collaborate with. We ask for citations in your application. Simply, we want you to know, or we want you to reflect to us that you've looked enough and you know enough about a topic that you kind of know what the baseline landscape is and what you would like to think about and study for 3 years that you won't get tired of, that you can study for 3 years and try to move the needle on that issue. But we do not expect you to already have the answer, because if you did, A, it would have already been solved, or B, you shouldn't be in this program if you already think you have the answer. Come with a problem that you would like to explore. That's what we're looking for here and in your proposal. Next slide. I'll say this, we've had enough candidates come through and be in the program at this point. These are the 3 things that I can tell you absolutely are crucial for any applicant who is successful in working through the coursework, working with faculty committees, managing to do this while they have full-time work and a leadership position, and or full-time, consultancies where they're very, very busy as well. People travel while they do this program. They're tuning in and doing their work from all over the world, from on planes. We have international students, of course, and encourage international students to apply. So we've seen over time that these are the 3 things. This is a very intensive reading and critical thinking program. You have to be able to write already when you walk in the door to this program. You have to have expert time management. as I say, this is very much, and the third point, very much on your initiative and trying to figure out what works in your schedule. Everybody works differently. I just talked with our second cohort about how it is for them 4 courses in. And it's interesting all of the different ways that people have figured out their routines and when they do their work and how they've informed their employers or their families or whatever about their blocks of time that they need. It's really important. And so that's also important when you're thinking about applying for this program. You may realize this program actually would be a fantastic match for you, but not this year. Or that you actually do need to start this year because you know something else might be happening later for you. So timing is truly everything here, not only while you're in the program, but when you do the program in your career. So think about that. It is intensive. And again, we're here for you every step of the way, and so are your faculty, very dedicated faculty. Every faculty member that teaches in this program wants to teach in this program, has volunteered to teach in this program, and the same is true for all of our faculty chairs from the Lilly Family School that will be working with you very specifically on your applied research projects in your second and third years. Next slide. So I mentioned before, this is a cohort model. All the students come together when the residencies are required. We have one at the beginning of each year. And so you come in August for a required residency for a few days. And this is where you will meet your cohort in person. We also do some Zoom meetings before that. We really, really are trying to encourage the cohort model. Many of our students will tell you that the cohort is what gets them through often. They have their own chat space. They like checking in with each other. They have all sorts of ways that they partner with each other. They really, really will go on about the cohort model. And then in the third year, they're independent, but obviously by then they really, really know each other already. So they will come back, each of you, in August at the beginning of every year. And the residency is intended to get you prepared for the next year. We bring in faculty and we go over a lot of things that will help you as you are moving through that next year. Program's 48 credits. Again, nothing transfers in. 48 are the 48 that we are doing with you during your 3 years here, asynchronous. And as I mentioned, we have many synchronous opportunities. I want to pause on this for a moment. So I get a lot of questions about this. So faculty do optional synchronous sessions throughout each course. And in addition, you're doing one-on-ones with faculty. You may be asked for assignments to be doing interviews with people. You're talking to your cohort. So you will manage the time on that. We also, once you're in the Lilly School, as I say, you're not just a member of this program, you are part of the Lilly School family and you're part of the Indiana University family. Wherever we have alumni, many tens of thousands of alumni all over the world. And there are many, many opportunities for you to be engaged in your doctoral program and within a university setting, even online, and sometimes even in person. Our students wind up meeting each other as they are traveling for work or fun in all parts of the world. One of our first years, we did a Zoom, and it turns out that 2 of our students had just met up in Lisbon because they both happened to be there. So these kinds of things happen, and we want you to know that it's part of the support for going through the program. The residencies are required. The costs for those are in addition to tuition. We try to keep the cost down, and Greg will mention some more about the tuition, et cetera. But they are required, and they're a big part of the success for students who actually are moving through the program. So residency at the beginning, year of classes online, residency, year of classes, residency, year of writing, and then commencement. Next slide. So I mentioned this before, the Lilly School's interest is not only for, of course, education for individuals in this space, but it's also to disseminate publicly the outcomes of your applied research project proposals, what it is that you think could be put back out into the field. We're looking for all sorts of different projects. We do not give you a list of the types of projects because we actually want you to be creative and tell us what you think would be useful in your many years in and around the fields. And as I mentioned, it is a major part of the of your application. So it's something to really think through and not dash off at the last moment. I highly suggest also, because you have recommendation letters that are required, that you also let your recommenders know what you were thinking about in terms of the what it is you want to do in this program. It can be very helpful as they're formulating and developing their letters for you to be able to discuss why this is important and why you're a good person to work on this project. Next slide. And I think this is one of my last slides. This is just a baseline overview for those of you that are wondering PhD in whatever field, not just philanthropy, but any field, versus an applied research degree. Some of you may be more familiar with how schools of education have a PhD and an EDD. As I mentioned, there are actually many PhD online leadership programs now that are for leadership across all the sectors. The baseline difference is original research and basic research about expanding specific knowledge, data-driven knowledge, whether quantitative or qualitative, very topically driven, theory-oriented, right? And you're analyzing results, et cetera, from original research. In applied research, we're asking you to look at other people's research and apply it to the issue that you have chosen. It is for problem solving. That's really what it is. You're coming as a leader telling us what the problem is, and you're telling us you want to spend 3 years thinking about how at least some of that problem might be solved moving forward. And so it's much more pragmatically driven and practice oriented, and you are synthesizing results, right? Not just analyzing what you found, but thinking about how it synthesizes with what goes on in the real world. So that's the difference here. And this is an applied research degree for sure. I think I'm turning this over to Greg now. Thanks much for being here, Greg.
Excellent. Thanks, Cindy. And hello, everyone. Want to talk a little bit about admissions requirements, financial aid, etc. And as Cindy has said throughout this webinar, just know that we are always here to help throughout the process. You can see there on the slide that the application for next year's cohort, the cohort that will start in August of 2026, the application will open on September 1st and close on December 5th. And that December 5th deadline is a hard and fast deadline. We do not make exceptions to that deadline. So keep that December 5th deadline in mind. And all of the materials listed below are required by that December 5th deadline. So of course that includes the application itself, which can be found online. We will require transcripts from every college or university that you've attended, undergraduate and graduate. Even if you didn't earn a degree from the institution, but you have credit from one of the institutions, we need to see the application from each of those institutions. For international applicants, your admissions criteria and what is needed from the transcripts could vary a little bit. So please check the PhilD website for additional application requirements. And those could be, English language proficiency requirements set by the university, how we want your transcript sent to us, etc. And it varies by country. So we can't be very specific even on what exactly is needed. That's why we ask that you refer to the PhilD website. Then, of course, we need your resume or CV. And one of the things I want to say about the resume at this point is this is not a situation where you're applying for a job, where traditional wisdom says, keep your resume to 1 or 2 pages, knock off anything that's more than 10 years old or not directly relevant to the program you're applying. We really want to see the entirety of your career trajectory, including leadership experiences that may not be directly related to the philanthropic sector. It really should be an extremely comprehensive resume, and it's your opportunity to show the committee the vast expertise that you bring to the to the cohort. One of the advantages of moving through in a true cohort model like this and bringing thought leaders together like you all in a classroom setting is you will learn as much from one another as you do from the course material and the instructors. And so that resume really helps us build that diverse cohort that ensures that kind of peer-to-peer learning is also happening. Then we, of course, have 3 letters of reference that are required. We would like to see at least 2 of those be professional references and 1 an academic reference. Now, we understand many of you have been out of school for many, many, many years and may not have connections with former faculty in an earlier degree program. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a former faculty member, but it does need to be someone who can talk about your academic curiosity, your ability to read, write, synthesize, etc. So that could be someone who you worked on a project with, gave a conference presentation with, etc. And Cindy mentioned this earlier, but the personal statement where you are supposed to describe a description of your tenure as a leader in the field and how the PhilD will impact your leadership trajectory and how it can enhance the contributions you make to the sector. Again, I know Cindy said this, but just bears repeating. The personal statement should not be a regurgitation of your resume. We want them to be complementary of one another, but not a regurgitation of one another. And then finally, the applied research project proposal. And I know, again, Cindy talked a little bit about this, but one of the reasons that we want you to have this up front as part of the application, again, we want to ensure a diversity of backgrounds, a diversity of interests, etc. in the cohort. But also, you are going to approach each class in the PhilD program through the lens of your applied research project. And each class is supposed to build upon one another as it relates to the applied research project proposal. And as leaders like yourself in the field, you probably have 1, 2, maybe 3 systemic issues that you've seen throughout your tenure that you would like to address. And this is that opportunity to tell us what are those things that have stuck out to you, that if you could change using existing research, how would you implement a change to the sector? And that's what we're asking for as far as the applied research project proposal. There are, on the personal statement and on the applied research project proposal, there are word limits. And so definitely stick to those. Those will be outlined on the application. For the applied research project proposal, we want you to stay between 1,000 and 1,500 words. And for the personal statement, no more than 750 words. All right, so I'm sure this is something that is top of mind for many of you, as these are questions that we get a lot. And what is the cost to this program, and what does financial aid look like? So we currently do not have the tuition rates for 2026. The Board of Trustees meets this summer. I believe they meet at the end of this month or the beginning of June to set those to set the new rates for Indiana University. Currently, the cost of attendance for tuition, cost of tuition is $1,592 per credit hour. I will say typically the Board of Trustees, we've seen, a 2% or so increase set by the Board of Trustees every year. So you can kind of factor that in. But again, that should be out by the middle of June. And you can visit that IU Money Smarts website. That is updated as soon as the Board of Trustees announces their plans, that link will be updated. We will also update the cost of tuition on our website as well when we learn what that is. So the program is eligible for any federal or state aid that you might qualify for through the results of the FAFSA. So might have been a while since you filed the FAFSA, but if you are looking for federal or state aid and even some institutional aid, we would recommend that you file the FAFSA for this program. So you'll see the bullet point there, tuition rate, same for all students within the cohort. What that means is, we're a public institution, and at the undergraduate and graduate level, there is a difference between in-state and out-of-state tuition rates. That is not true for this program. The tuition is again, currently $1,592 per credit hour, regardless of whether you are an Indiana resident or not. The same is true for international students. They pay the same tuition rate as well. We obviously want to be upfront about additional costs that you may incur or will incur as part of this program. So there are 3 required residencies. They are at the beginning of each year. So in August, mid-August of every year. Typically, those, again, it obviously depends on how far you're traveling and by what means you're traveling, but you can estimate for budgeting purposes around $3,000 per residency. And again, there are 3 of those, so probably about an additional $9,000 for the residency for budgeting purposes. One other thing that I'll say about financial aid, we often get the question about institutional aid. This is a relatively new program. The 2026 cohort will only be our 4th cohort. So we actually don't even have a graduated class for this program yet. Our first cohort will just be starting their 3rd year, so their applied research project writing and research here in the next couple weeks. So with that being said, each of our first 3 cohorts have had some financial opportunities through the university. Again, to be upfront, those have been limited opportunities, and each cohort has had differing opportunities. And so we don't know exactly what the financial aid, what institutional financial aid will look like for the 4th cohort yet. However, it's something our development team and the entire school works on a regular basis. And as soon as we're able to announce anything for the 2026 cohort, we certainly will.
Can I just interject really quickly here? Yes, 2 things. So exactly everything that Greg just said. We continue to look for support that we can offer to the students, either from individual donors or from the institution itself. So please know that we view that as very important. Nonetheless, we really encourage students to think ahead about this. It's not a great situation if you think you've got only so much covered that you can do, and then you're going to have to figure it out. Some of that may be okay, but we really want you to think about this is essentially a self-funded program by students, and it's a commitment financially. So again, the timing of when to do the program, even if it's a good match, can be really, really important as you're thinking through that. The last thing I'll add that isn't a bullet point, probably ought to be on this slide, is that there are individual fellowships and scholarship opportunities out there in the world that have nothing to do with Indiana University. I have written any number of recommendation letters now for students in the program who have found something in their very specific community. We've had a student that got some financial assistance because they were looking for a specific type of student within a specific geographical area. There are also a number of fellowships that are for returning students now. This is actually in the major discussions around higher education and the value of higher ed, et cetera. There are actually some out there specifically for people that are returning for further degrees. There are some specific I have seen to our field in trying to help folks get further education in it. So we really encourage you to do that research. We do not track those types of fellowship opportunities, but I do know that the students are starting to find them. And we really, really encourage you to think about that too, because there might possibly be assistance that's outside Indiana University or loan programs at the federal and state level.
Wonderful. Thank you both, Cindy and Greg, for that information. If you'd like further information about the program, firstly, the easiest way is probably to use either QR code here now. It'll take you to our link tree and provide all the good stuff that we talked about today. You can, of course, go to our website at philanthropy.indianapolis.iu.edu/PhilD. If you have any questions about our program that have not been answered today, if you need to go early, feel free to use the phild@iu.edu email address. If you have questions specific to the admissions process, of course, email Greg directly. I know many of you have already been in contact with him through this process. If you haven't already, also would definitely encourage you to follow us on LinkedIn. We've got a lot of interesting portrayals of our prior cohorts, students currently within the program, and lots of great information there. As Greg mentioned,
our faculty are also highlighted
and
on it.
faculty, can't forget the faculty, of course. Thank you, Cindy. And as Greg mentioned, if any additional information comes out regarding scholarship opportunities, anything like that, it will also be on the PhilD LinkedIn page. I wanted to leave you here with just some pictures of our current cohorts within the PhilD program. This will conclude the formal part of our presentation. If you have any questions at this point, feel free to use the Q&A. We will stick around until 1 o'clock or until everyone is done asking us questions. And while we wait for any questions, Cindy, do you want to talk maybe just a little bit about these cohorts?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, most of these cohorts, they've never met before. We've had a couple people that knew each other professionally before they walked in the door and met each other at these residencies, but it is astounding how people bond almost right away. Our residencies are set up. I actually lead the residencies and we bring in faculty. Madison is there for support. We have other school support to make sure they go well. We really love seeing how the students learn from each other. Greg's point is a real one. This is a peer-to-peer learning situation as much as it is in many other aspects of the program, because everybody comes, for those of you that remember what a Rolodex is, everybody is coming with a huge Rolodex, lots of professional background. They are sharing that with each other. In fact, one of the very first things we ask the students to do as a quote summer assignment before they even get to the residency is to tell us and tell the cohort what you bring to the table that will be helpful to the cohort as you're moving through. What are your skills? What's your background that you could really be helpful to people as they're moving through? It's just astounding, the breadth of experience and backgrounds, professional, educational. Our students come from all sorts of different educational backgrounds, including graduate degrees that are MBAs, Masters of Divinity. We have at least one other student that already has a doctoral degree. We have several that got their ABDs. They went all but dissertation at other doctoral programs and decided that this program was a better fit due to the practice-oriented nature of it. We've got MPAs, we've got, what else, Madison? I'm trying to think. Every kind of graduate degree you can think of. JDs, we've got it. We got folks. And it's just really interesting to see how people come together. And again, they wind up setting up their own communication system and kind of finding their peeps within the cohort. But it is astounding how much they are sharing, and they're sharing professionally too. I sometimes both delight and scare people with the fact that 13 months from now, we will have our first alumni from this program. To the point that we're about to graduate folks in 2026, our inaugural cohort. And when you join this program, you are going to be part of an incredible alumni network. After you get through, and even in the time that you'll be in the program, you will have access to all of those folks. And I can't stress that enough. And also our Lilly School faculty. When you join this program, even if you do not have a particular faculty member as your faculty in this program, the Lilly School is all here for you. IU is certainly, but you have access to the Lilly School and its research and all sorts of things that go on at this school that people from all over the world hope to come across in their professional lives. It will now be your home base. So we really hope that is valuable to all of you, and we look forward to hearing more from you. And I know, Aaron, you probably got a few questions that we can answer.
Yeah, thank you, Cindy. Some great questions have come in that I'll just ask you for the groups or for those that are attending. Can you share the learnings over these first 2 years that have informed any adjustments or changes to how the program operates going into year 3?
Yeah, we're always doing evaluations. It's a good question. We're educators. We believe in adaptive learning. And so we make a point of doing evaluations 2 weeks into a course. We're looking at, are there any major things that we need to know? The end of every course, our students, we ask, them to do an annual evaluation where they're looking back at the whole year's curriculum trajectory. And then I do the exact same thing with faculty. I am debriefing after every time that they teach a course. I meet with them personally. We are talking one-on-one about what can be improved next time, et cetera. So we're doing that as we go through this. And the third component, students, faculty, will now be our faculty committees. That serve, for those of you that are familiar with PhD programs, there's a faculty committee that's working individually with a student on their dissertation. In this program, we have a 2-person faculty committee. One's a Lilly School member. The other one can be a practitioner with a terminal degree and or a professor somewhere, including IU, but does not have to be for their second reader. We will also be layering in their evaluations about how that process is going. Eventually, we absolutely will do a curriculum review based on all of this to see what is working that was predicted. So far, pretty good, but we already know there might be some things that we may need to change. The residencies are a really important part. You know, that's an example. At the beginning, they were optional, and we realized that's not the way we can do that for an asynchronous program. Many of you who are looking at other professional doctoral programs or executive doctorates know that you actually have many residencies. Many of the programs require you to go once a month for a weekend or 4 times in a semester or something like that. We actually have pretty minimal standards or requirements for our residencies, but we do now require those. So that's the type of change that we have made as time has gone on. We are also looking to see what the students wind up doing with their applied research projects. That is a bit hard to predict. As we learn more of what they are doing with them in the real world afterwards, we will probably, you know, imbue the curriculum and some more of our process with that knowledge, but we don't know that yet. But so far, we've got the rails laid, if you will. And again, this will be the admission cycle for our 4th cohort. So this fall, we have all 3 cohorts running for the 3-year program. We are firing on all pistons at this point, and happily so.
Awesome. A couple other questions. Has anyone creatively partnered with a third-party company or organization that has funded all or part of the PhilD program, perhaps with an agreement of ownership or first rights over the finding for their project?
No, and that is on purpose. As I mentioned before, that is not what's happening here, although I am quite aware that there are other professional doctoral programs in the business world and sometimes even in education and some other leadership programs that do exactly that. So not dinging the fact that there are others that do that. All good if your employer wants to help you with, you know, costs through professional development funds or whatever for doing some of this program. What I'm concerned about is, to the last part of your question, that anybody would, quote, own your research findings or what it is that you are doing out in the world. We really, really encourage you to come into this so that no matter what job, what employer, what world you are in, whatever work you are doing is solely because it's something that you want to embark upon and that you will be able to put out into the sector as part of an academic institution, right? So we do have parts of the school that do contracted research. Dr. Una Osili's shop really, really does a lot of different types of things, you know, Bank of America, et cetera, kinds of projects. That's not this for an academic program. So if you've got questions about that, I am more than happy to speak with you about it.
Great. Could you please speak to the vision for the PhilD program as it may relate to the Lilly Family School Institutes and continued opportunities for applied research collaborations, especially as they relate to community-centric fundraising? That might be a bit too much, but maybe generally.
That's a lot. I will say that, so we have a number of institutes. I'm glad you brought this up. We have a number of institutes at the Lilly School. I won't go through all of them, but if you look at our website, you'll see we have the Lake Institute, we have the Maids Institute, the Women's Philanthropy Institute. We've got any number of different initiatives, institutes, different areas of research that do have separate funding. They do their own events, they do their own, collaborations, they do all sorts of things, and that's appropriate within an academic environment, right? Our students have access to that. They all of these institutes and initiatives do their own events. They have all sorts of interesting things going on all the time. In addition to what the Lilly School is doing, we have a higher education and philanthropy initiative, for example. We have a science and philanthropy initiative. We have all sorts of initiatives. I am working with the dean on a policy initiative as my own. I didn't really do an intro there, but just as your director, I can tell you my own research is in charitable regulatory policy. I'm a JD, a lawyer by training. And in academia, we've got lots of different ideas and different initiatives going on. Students have access to all of them. And you have access to the people that are leading them and to actually attending, whether online or in person, as it's allowed. So that's amazing. We have a number of faculty, as many of you may know, the history of the Lilly School. It started as the fundraising school. And so we have a number of faculty that they're research focused and or the fundraising school, which is more in the vein of executive education and training. We have a lot of bandwidth around anything regarding fundraising and advancement work. So whether it's community-centric, giving circles, peer-to-peer, millennial, we've got all the things. And we've got people that are researching and thinking about all the things too. We're the premier place in the country for doing that work. And we have students working on applied research projects, very much so, that are in that space, rural philanthropy, you name it, we've got it. And so we're happy if we don't have somebody that is very specific to you, that is interest, I can tell you we are 1 degree of separation from anybody in the world who actually does do research if it is being done in that space.
Yeah, wonderful. And in relating to that, could you provide just a few examples of some of the research projects that are being worked on?
Yeah, there's so many interesting ones. I hesitate to say any few because that are off the top of my head this morning because I don't want to leave out all the other cool ones that are being done. So we do have some folks, and know this, even if somebody else is already working on a specific type of applied research project, an ARP, it doesn't mean someone else can't come in and also be working, because the reality is you're never going to have the same types of projects, right? You're coming from different backgrounds, you're coming from different perspectives on something. And I'll give as an example, we have a couple, 3 people that are working on something regarding rural philanthropy or rural philanthropic professional development, about how to get resources to more rural areas. And that includes not only financial resources, but again, somebody that's more focused on how do we do professional development for people that are out far away from the urban environments and some of the large university settings where some of these things happen. So we've got folks looking at, what happens when small organizations get massive grants, right? The McKinsey Scott effect, like what happens after that? We have folks looking at how do we deal and how we can do much better in HBCU funding, right? And fundraising for HBUs specifically. We have somebody working on burnout in the sector, a massive issue in our sector. We have folks thinking about advocacy and policy, whether through Muslim philanthropy, whether through community collaborations within religious communities or religious organizations within communities. We've got somebody thinking about how do you connect philanthropy with the folks that are thinking about specific ideas to advance, an initiative out in the sector. But also to think about how to change policy that will have a longer term effect than just funding a specific initiative that it happens to be happening right now in the world. We have, as starting this fall, we will have 58 people working on 58 different projects this fall. And it's hard to even grasp like all of the different projects, but it really, really goes across. We have a number in higher education. I would love to see some more in the health space. That would be great. 40% of healthcare in this country is delivered by nonprofits. And it would be phenomenal to see some of those kinds of things. We have, yes, rural philanthropy, advocacy, different types of religious communities, So many. We are hoping later this year to actually do a bit of highlighting of some of the projects that are going on, particularly for our group that is entering their third year and very much have honed their projects. And I just want to make one more mention as we draw to a close here. So this curriculum is really based, each course has what we call a signature assignment. And I should have mentioned this before. The way that the curriculum and your applied research project work together, and Greg mentioned this in part, but to put a finer point on it, every course has a signature assignment, and that is where, to Greg's point about seeing your coursework is through the lens of your ARP, it's not that every course is going to have something to do with your ARP. It's supposed to also just be an educational moment for you as you're thinking big picture about what's going on in this world. I teach the policy course, for example, and that's going to change, every year as we teach it because there's so much going on. But the signature assignment is intended to scaffold. And so the whole program is based on scaffolding, that each course you are building another component to your applied research project until you get to that first milestone course and you can see where you are at the end of your first year. And then you do it again your second year while you're working with your faculty committee. And then you have a milestone course. So by the time you get to your third year, we've just been talking about this with our inaugural cohort. They have developed all sorts of research and work on their ARP the first 2 years so that they are ready and good to go for their third year of writing and really honing that project to something that they can finish up. But meanwhile, you're learning a lot of other things in this program and meeting amazing faculty and peers and out in the world, because this gives you a chance to interact with stakeholders that are important and that you feel have impact on the issue that you've chosen. And that's being a doctoral student is a good platform. Most of our students have in their signature block now that they're a Lilly School PhilD doctoral student. And there's a reason for that. It's a good platform for interviewing people, for exploring new things, apart from your coursework.
Thank you so much, Cindy. This will bring our presentation to a close. I want to thank you, Cindy, Greg, Madison, for all of your help. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us either at the phild@iu.edu email, or email Greg directly at grathnow@iu.edu for any admissions related questions. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Be on the lookout for this recording in your emails within the next week. Thank you.
Thank you.